In today's video, my top 3 muscle building mistakes.
By myself.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Powerlifter from ProPhysique.com. In today's video, we're going to address the top 3 mistakes that I see and that I've experienced myself when it comes to trying to build muscle continuously for a long time. And if you're interested in nutrition and training and getting the best body that you could possibly have, well, click the subscribe button because that's what we do here. And today's question comes from my Instagram direct message. So for those that don't know, I like to ask a question on my Instagram, so you can go there, send me a DM, it's on the screen. And what I'll do now is read the question so we get some context. I'm 14 and started weight training about 6 months ago. At first, I had many improvements in muscle growth and overall fitness, but now I have seemed to reach a plateau. I am no longer gaining much, even though I'm progressively overloading on a consistent basis. I don't know if I should try to go into calisthenics or stick to weight training. What is your advice for me as a teen? My first tip for building muscle when it comes to doing it over a long period of time, for you, my friend, who's been training for 6 months, this is about when we go from a true beginner to a true intermediate. And what I mean by that is, you can, as a true beginner, go in the gym and do anything you want and make progress. You don't need to be on any kind of program. Your nutrition doesn't need to be in check. The human body is going to adapt to the stress that you place upon it. That stress in the first few months is going to have a profound impact on the way you look and feel. So the biggest issue that I think you're about to have is that you're going to change training programs too quickly, okay? So my first tip is that we don't need to be constantly reinventing the wheel, okay? They're not reinventing exercises, they're not reinventing rep ranges, okay? But we're gonna talk about what else you could be doing wrong. I actually believe that the longer we stay with the same training program with progressive overload principles, with metabolic stress principles, but I'm gonna explain a little bit more on my next tip, the better we get. And why is that? Well, exercising is a skill, okay? So what you've done after 6 months is you've been doing a lot of exercises, but I promise you, you're doing them wrong. That doesn't mean that you're not seeing progress, okay? Because compound movements include multiple body parts. But what I really see with beginners is chest pressing that is mostly anterior delt, lat pulling that is mostly rear delt and bicep. So what I mean by this is, instead of changing programming too frequently, you actually fine-tune your training and make sure you're hitting the targeted muscles. This is gonna spur an entire new set of muscle growth. Why? Because you're stimulating the muscles that you haven't been. And you're likely overtraining the areas that you're hitting multiple days per week. For example, let's say you've got a chest day and you've got a shoulder day. Well, if you're primarily hitting shoulders because of your form and technique, those shoulders are going to get worn out and tired, the chest isn't going to grow, and you're going to really hit a sticking point with the shoulder strength. However, if you learn how to engage the pecs a little bit better, you can really kickstart this. Now, how do I know this? Because I was that guy. I made these mistakes. For years, I had massive shoulders and no chest. For years, I had big biceps and no back. I had to relearn how to do these movements. And that's the great thing about bodybuilding, is that it's always teaching us how to take a step back and look at what we're doing wrong and what we can do better. I promise you, your routine might not be ideal, but I wouldn't say just jump and do something like calisthenics. That is not gonna lead to muscle gains, okay? So let's talk about tip number 2. Tip number 2 is gonna relate very closely. It's gonna be your intensity of training. That's right. Now, I know a lot of people get on millennials for walking around the gym with a phone, but I even catch myself doing it sometimes. I get caught up in other things and don't make the workout, the rep, the set, the focus. Your training intensity is going to dictate how you grow. Are you actually overloading the muscle that you're supposed to be targeting? Are you using techniques like drop sets and supersets to save you time in the gym, to make sure you're actually getting enough metabolic stress to grow? Are you doing things like time under tension? That's right. You can do the same workout, but you can do some finishing sets, some drop sets, some supersets, or even some slow controlled negatives, which is really gonna work on some eccentric damage to the muscles, right? There are other techniques. It's not necessarily the training program that you're on, it's the intensity with which you're executing that program. And if you've been on the same program for a long time, well, it might be time to do something new just for the novelty of it, so you're excited. Because if you've been doing the same thing for a long time and you start to lose progress, well, that's where we can actually get into a place where the workout program we're on isn't the right one any longer, because we're not enjoying it. We're not putting as much effort in. So the next step there would be to find something that's going to allow us to continue to progressively overload. It could be the same program you're on. You could just swap out the big exercises, the big compounds, and then there you just swap out some of the accessory work, so that, let's say you've been doing a flat bench for months. Well, maybe now you start your workout with an incline dumbbell press and you end with a flat bench, right? The philosophy can still be the same, but you can change the training intensity and you can change the way that you train the muscle so you're hitting it properly. So the first two tips are, don't change the program with too much frequency. Second tip, make sure you're training with focus and intensity. Now the third one is back to my initial point about how when a noob gets in the gym and starts lifting, they're gonna see a magical amount of progress. If you just go in there and do some curls and do some bench and do some squats, you're gonna see your body change in profound ways, even if you really don't do much else with your lifestyle. However, when we reach these plateaus 6 months a year, and I was that guy, then you have to start looking at, okay, are you putting nutrition in to support what you're putting out in the gym? Because if you're training hard and you're focused and you have a good program and your nutrition does not match that, well, your recovery is going to be subpar. You're not going to be able to add weight to the bar. You're not going to be able to progress. And probably you're going to just get run down and tired and might even get sick, okay? So your performance is going to suffer. Your overall well-being is going to suffer. So we need to start paying attention to nutrition after this 6-month period, and probably before that. But that's my third tip, is really start to hone in on your nutrition. This is something that I really lacked on for many, many years. I would put all my time and effort in the gym. I would go to the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I would have a pre-workout shake, but that was basically it. Once I committed to entering a physique competition and I hired a coach, I really started to look at, okay, what am I actually hitting? I was shocked at how little protein I was getting. I was shocked at how much fat I was taking in. When you start to take accountability for your nutrition, it can be a powerful tool. I felt like I made noob gains when I started paying attention to my nutrition, my timing, my pre-workout timing. All these things made my workouts better, my recovery better. Heck, even my lifestyle outside of the gym was better. I started putting myself in a position to train and recover optimally, and guess what? I started making progress again, even after I had been lifting for 14 years. That was when I was 32 years old when I started to do my first competition. I completely changed the way I looked and felt after that. Why? Well, I decided it was time to stop being a little bitch and start training like a man, okay? Start treating myself the way I should have been treating myself all that time, okay? So if you're having these problems after 6 months, I promise you, these 3 tips are gonna resolve them. If you have any other questions or you'd like any other help, I have a free ebook that you can download. It's a trainer's beginner's guide, okay? I also have a free ebook on flexible dieting if nutrition is your problem. I'll put it in the link below. You guys have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.